Hi all, and thanks for being with me. I know that it seems to be an obsession of mine with Sky News. I accept that, take full responsibility for it, because when you're sitting on a certain position and you see somebody taking an obsessive response to a position that you agree with but they disagree with, one has to be, I don't know, forthright, I guess, in trying to at least see it from their perspective, to understand perhaps that they have a point of view that's worth acknowledging. But sometimes one simply has to say it's bullshit. And I've got an example of that from Sky News, and I can never remember this dude's name, so I apologise to him for that. But there is this complete obsession with Welcome to Country and anything that seems to be acknowledging our First Nations people. And so I'm going to play this. I'll probably play it all the way through, because here he is having a go at all those MPs who gave their inaugural speeches this week, and how they acknowledged country in every one of them. And because there were so many new members, there were a lot of them. And this particular dude objected to what they say. And so I'll take you through his objections, and we'll talk about it as we go through it. So this is the first one, I guess.
Well, Parliament is back, and there's something I've discovered. The first order of business for any freshly minted Labor MP these days is not to represent their constituents or offer policy ideas. It's to perform an acknowledgement of country.
Now, can we start with the fact that the purpose of the first inaugural speech in Parliament is to introduce yourself, to tell you of the things that you're interested in, where you've come from, how you've arrived at this position. Why this guy thinks that it's an opportunity to deliver policy positions, I'll never know. Clearly, he is so out of touch with this process that he probably needs to spend just a little bit more time having a look at Parliament itself and understanding how the system works.
And this week, one after the other in a conga line of colonialist contrition, they stood in Parliament to mumble the now compulsory lines. It wasn't just the repetition that struck me, though heaven knows, if I hear I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land one more time, I'll need my own welcome to insanity.
Well, the issue there is that the things that he says will illustrate to most of us that this man is already insane.
What struck me was the increasing absurdity of the claims that followed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I acknowledge the traditional owners of my electorate, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, as I do the traditional owners of this place, the Ngunnawal people.
Banks is located on the lands of the Bidjigal people. I'm so pleased to be able to recognise in this great house their culture, their custodianship of the land, air and waterways of Banks.
Before I begin, I wish to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land this Parliament meets on, the Ngunnawal and Ngambri peoples. These lands were never ceded. They hold the wisdom of over 65,000 years of continuous connection to land, water, sky and spirit. And it reminds us that the work of truth-telling and justice is far from complete. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land.
And that's just the start. But consider some of those claims. Indigenous Australians are custodians of not just the land, but Labor MPs are telling us Indigenous people are custodians of the air.
I think this guy misses the whole purpose of Welcome to Country. And I think someone should remind him that the word Canberra itself is an Indigenous word meaning meeting place. So would he like us to change that as well, perhaps, as we go around the country and we visit certain locations such as Wagga Wagga and many others around this country, And let's change their names back to something that is less Indigenous. Perhaps this is where he's coming from. He wants us to be white. He wants us to be non-Indigenous. He wants us to do whatever it is that we can do in order to, I guess, wipe the history of colonialisation and how that's impacted First Nations people. I think this is where these people are coming from primarily.
Stand on Aboriginal land and breathe Aboriginal oxygen. I'm surprised the member for Banks didn't finish his monologue.
Now, that statement with regard to having to breathe Indigenous oxygen just demonstrates how stupid the claims are that this guy's making. The sad thing for me is that many of those claims are claims which a lot of Australians accept. There was back a time when Mabo was happening that a lot of people thought that the Indigenous people were just going to literally take away land that we had purchased and bought. That is not the case. This is just about acknowledging where the Indigenous people come from, the land that is theirs, and the fact that we have colonised their land. That is a reality. In fact, it's a fact. And we're just acknowledging that. Doesn't mean we're going to lose our land, doesn't mean we have to breathe their air, whatever. Stupid statement to make in the first place. What it simply means is we're acknowledging. It's like, if you make a mistake, if you insult someone egregiously and you recognise your mistake, you apologise to that person. You may not ask for anything more from them, but you just apologise. How they accept that apology is up to them. You just apologise. Even in this country, if you have a grievance against somebody else and you believe you need to be, you need to find some way in which you need some sort of payment for the way that they have hurt you or harmed you, then we take them to court. There are processes whereby if I feel extremely offended by somebody, that I can seek some sort of remuneration from that. That's the way the system goes. In our system, in the way that these guys want to run our system, no matter what damage we do to Indigenous people, they have no way of, claiming against that. I mean, there have been some efforts and some land has been returned to them, and there has been a definite way by which we've tried to make some sort of contribution back to Indigenous people. But no matter how we do that, Indigenous people still have the worst outcomes of anyone in this country. Health, education, incarceration, kids being removed. It's terrible for them. And people like this dude from Sky cannot understand, is just not capable, I think, of understanding the damage that has been done. And why it isn't just within our capabilities of saying, well, we are sorry for that. We may not have caused it ourselves, our forefathers have. We have, though, agreed to policies that have contributed the abuse. We have, we do to this very day. Yet people like this don't seem to understand the damage that we've done, and certainly can't see that what they're doing now is just as damaging and twice as divisive by raising this issue over and over again. So why people like Pauline Hanson sits in this camp and discusses issues around Indigenous people, issues which they disagree with because they are simply racist, is beyond me. I could play more of this. It carries on further and further, but I won't bore you with it. I just wanted to say that acknowledging the land on which you are, because it's Indigenous land, which has never been seceded. This is true. Has never been given away. It's never been purchased or bought from Indigenous people. It was taken from them, and our forefathers massacred them. This is what we did. We personally, individually, may not be responsible, but that is the history. We need to accept that history, but dudes like this in Sky News cannot accept it. just cannot accept it, because somehow either they think they feel responsible for what's happened, or they fail to take responsibility for what is happening now in terms of the policies and things that we're doing that are inhibiting the growth of Indigenous people. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Remember to ring the bell for further notifications, and let's continue having the conversation. In the meantime, take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe.